Hello, this is Jim Stockstill, bringing you a teaching entitled The Handwriting on the Wall. The purpose of this teaching to show you what God is currently doing in the world and in the United States of America. For a moment, I want you to start thinking about the way that God views the Mideast. God sees Jerusalem as the exact geometric center of the world. Though he is concerned with the United States and Russia and Japan and the other nations, main thrust of his prophecies are always the Mideast centered. So when we're talking about the kingdoms and stuff that arise in the earth, and Daniel sees and John sees and everything, he's not even alluding to the kingdoms of Russia, the United States, Germany, and some of the Western kingdoms. He's alluding to the kingdoms of the Mideast. And this is what I want you to see. Now, many Bible scholars and some TV evangelists and TV prophets try to put United States in Bible prophecy, try to put China in Bible prophecy, and Japan in Bible prophecy, Germany in Bible prophecy, Rome in Bible prophecy. And they may be briefly referred to, but it's not what the writers of the Bible, by inspiration of the Holy Spirit, meant. There may be some diversion coming right now in Bible prophecy, and some of the diversion I seem to even be bothering me. Islam is a nation that is rising to preeminence in the world right now, and as we study Daniel, we can see that there was 4 empires, and I'll teach on this again, but 4 empires that emerged out of the sea. And the last empire was not the restoration of the Roman Empire, but the last empire is the restoration of the Islamic Empire. And in reality, what we see, all the havoc and all the turmoil in the world right now, is by Islamic extremists. Because they actually believe that Islam is going to rise and be the major power and put down all the kingdoms of this earth. They believe that they've got a Mahdi who's coming, who will be their savior, and he's going to put down all the kingdoms of the world. They're going to establish their caliphate, and it will be the Mahdi, and they will rule the entire world. And not only do they believe that, they are actually putting action to their beliefs. They believe in the Quran, what it says, and they are actually putting action to it. They are actually terrorizing the world and trying to bring the world to its knees so that the world will bow to their Allah, and Allah will be supreme. So last couple of weeks I've been talking about the Antichrist, and I said that he was the opponent to the Christ. I said that he was Christ's adversary. And the one author in the Bible that describes the Antichrist and calls him the Antichrist is John. In 1 John, John calls him the Antichrist. He uses that term Antichrist. In other references in the Bible, he's referred to as the lawless one. Paul refers to him as the son of perdition. In Titus, it refers to him as the lawless one. John goes ahead and defines the Antichrist. And he says that there is the Antichrist, the one person who will be the embodiment of evil. That is the Antichrist. And he says also that many Antichrists have gone out into the world. In 1 John verse 22, he says, "Who is the liar but the one that denies that Jesus is the Christ. This is the Antichrist, the one who denies the Father and the Son. Then in verse 23 he says, whoever denies the Son does not have the Father. The one who confesses the Son has the Father also. So we see that the Antichrist is the opponent to Christ. The Antichrist is Christ's adversary, the complete opposite to Christ. The Antichrist and the Antichrist spirit denies that Jesus is the Messiah. The Antichrist and the Antichrist spirit denies the Father and the Son. John said, remember, that who denies the Son does not have the Father. Islam denies the Son as being God. In the Quran, chapter 5, verse 17, I've quoted this a number of times, it says, in blasphemy indeed are those that say that Christ is God, the Son of Mary. So they deny that Christ is the Son of God, and therefore John said if you deny that the Son, you also deny the Father. I also said before that the greatest threat to the United States, Israel, and the world is the rise of militant Islam. Islam is the Antichrist religion. If you don't agree with them, they'll cut your head off on TV as the world watches. Now, that's a complete opposite as Christian. Christians are told to love their enemies, to bless those who ruefully use you and abuse you. I said that the Antichrist will not come from Rome, that he's not the Pope. He's not going to be riding on a white horse out of Rome. I've said that the empire that is raising its ugly head right now and that you see in the news is the Islamic Empire. The Islamic Empire is what we've seen for the last few years. We've seen Egypt fall. We've seen Iraq fall. We've seen Tunisia fall. We've seen Sudan, Afghanistan fall. We see these nations falling, and in their place is being established the Muslim Brotherhood, or the Islamic Caliphate is going to be established. There's going to be a 10-nation alliance out of the Mideast, out of the Islamic Empire. It's going to be a restructuring, a restoration of the Islamic Empire that is going to come and produce the Antichrist. There'll be 10 nations that will be formed, and you can almost name all of them right now. And out of that will come a little horn, or another king, and he'll subdue 3 of them. And there will be 8, and that's in Daniel chapter 7 that we see that. And it's also in Revelation chapter 17 that we see the 8th, the Antichrist as being the 8th ruler. So I showed you last time that Rome never, well, it wasn't last time, it was about 3 weeks ago, I showed you that Rome never ruled the Mideast. I showed you that Greece ruled all the way through the Mideast. And I showed you that the Grecian Empire was ruled by Alexander the Great, and when he died, 4 of his generals took over the Grecian Empire. And I named the 4 of the generals, and 2 of them went into the Mideast, went into the eastern part of that empire. And it was out of that the Antichrist will emerge, out of the rule of Greece. It's mentioned in Daniel chapter 8, and you need to read this yourselves, that it's out of the Grecian Empire that the little horn emerges, or the Antichrist emerges. A few things, characteristics about the Antichrist that I said. He'll have power, but it won't be his own power. That's implying that Satan will be behind his power. and he's going to cause craft or deceit or witchcraft to prosper. He's going to make a covenant with Israel for 7 years, and at the end of 7.5 years, at the end of 3.5 years, then he's going to break that covenant, and he's going to sit down in the temple of God and proclaim that he is God. That brings on that's called the abomination of desolation. Jesus refers to that in chapter 24 of Matthew, verse 15. He says, when you see that, all kinds of stuff's going to break out on earth. There'll be such tribulation as not been since the world was or will ever be again. He's going to do things that his father's never done. He's going to divide the spoil with many, as he loves war, and he's going to divide the spoil with some of the people. He's going to be a modern day Robin Hood. He's not going to regard the God of his fathers, and he's not going to regard the desire of women. He's not going to regard any God. He's going to magnify himself above every God. He's not going to even have a God that he's responsible to, like you and I are responsible to a God. Our actions are responsible to a God. He's going to be responsible to himself. He's going to honor his God with gold and silver and precious stones and pleasant things. He's going to conquer many countries. War is going to be his method. And he's going to conquer Egypt, and the Libya and the Ethiopians are going to be at his feet. I want to get into something else today. I want to get into a mystery. So you need to sit down and listen to what I'm going to say. I don't think you can continue to sweep the floor or without thinking about this. This is Revelation chapter 17 and verse 3. And it says, there I saw a scarlet beast that was covered in blasphemous names, and it had 7 heads and 10 horns. The 7 heads are 7 empires that have existed throughout history, yet re-arising all at once at the end is going to be this beast. This beast that has 7 heads is an end-time vision that John saw, and it's going to rise at the very end of the age. The Bible clarifies this verse and explains this passage for us. It says, this calls for a mind with wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which a woman sits. They also are 7 kings. 5 kings have fallen. 1 is, the other has yet to come. But when he does come, he must remain for a little while. The beast who once was, and now is not, is an 8th. He belongs to the 7 and is going to destruction. So you can see that this requires some wisdom. This requires some thinking. These are 7 heads and are called 7 mountains and 7 kings. Mountains and kings are always referring to kingdoms. Kings are referring to kingdoms. That's symbols used in the Bible. So when it says that this woman is sitting on a beast has 7 heads and 7 kings, they're kingdoms or empires. This passage is directly referring to 7 empires. And this passage gives us an insight into the fact that Jesus returns. There will actually have been a total of 8 beast empires. Any empire that is not ruled by Christ is called a beast empire. And the 8th empire will be ruled by the Antichrist, the beast who once was and now is the 8th king. Now I know there's a little confusion right now, but if you bear with me, I'll try to clarify this. At the time this was written, there had already been 5 empires that had fallen. So when John is getting this revelation on the island of Patmos, after being exiled for preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ, Jesus the Christ, he's being shown what's going to happen at the very end. And at the time that he's being shown this, 5 empires of the world had fallen. Those 5 empires were the Egyptian. Remember, the Egyptian was the cradle of civilization, the Nile River. The Syrian Empire, the Babylonian Empire, the Persian Empire, and the Greek Empire. So at that time, 5 had fallen, according to that verse. After these 5, the angel tells John that there's one that is. So while John is having this revelation, the kingdom that is right now is the Roman Empire. And the Roman Empire is ruling parts of the Mideast. It's ruling all the West. It's ruling parts of the Mideast, and it's ruling Northern Africa and much of Europe. So we see 6 empires. Now, we see 5 that was. Rome is the 6th. All right? So now we need to identify the 7th empire. Who's going to be the 7th empire? So it says, the beast who once was and is not is an 8th king. So the 7th beast or empire that will come back into existence and then cease to exist will come back as the 8th and final empire. When John had this revelation, the 7th empire had not come into existence. So Rome was the 6th. So it can't be the Roman Empire that he's referring to as being the last beast, because what he's referring to is the 7th empire will come and then will die out and then be resurrected again. It'll be the resurrection of the 7th empire is what he's saying in this, what do you call this, puzzle that he's giving us, that he wants us to work with a little bit. And you've got to work with this a little bit in your mind. Your mind has to think about this. So the 7th empire must sprout from the Egyptian, Assyrian, Babylonian, Persian, or Greek empires. Yet it's going to include a little bit of all of them. So the 8th empire will be a revival of the 7th. Okay, so we're going to identify who was the 7th empire. Rome was divided into 2 sections. There was the western part of Rome, and then there was the eastern part of Rome, which included the Mideast part. And it didn't include all the way down to the Euphrates, but it included into Jerusalem and Syria, Jordan, and those. The eastern portion eventually became known as the Byzantine Empire. I'm sorry. So the Roman Empire didn't actually completely fall until the eastern portion of the empire finally collapsed in 1453 AD to the Muslim Turks led by Muhammad II. Jerusalem was ruled by an Islamic caliphate from 637 that culminated with the Ottoman Empire, which ruled the Middle East for over 1,300 years. So here's what happened. When you study, no one actually says there's a lot of conflict on when did Rome really end. But as early as what was it, 637 AD, in Jerusalem, an Islamic caliphate was established, and it was established until 1453 AD. So officially, they'll say that Roman Empire didn't end until 1453 AD when it was defeated by Muhammad II. But what really happened was it was being ruled at that time by Islam. Matter of fact, well, I'm not going to get into that. It was being ruled by Islam. And So it was ruled from Islam from 637 AD until 1453 AD. And then the Ottoman Empire was established. And the Ottoman Empire ruled until 1923. Until 1923. So we see that the Seventh Empire is the Islamic Empire. And that empire ended it was 1924. But now we see it being reinstituted again. Now I'm going to go over this and clarify it in just a second. We're going to cut off right here. So in conclusion here, let's say that what John is seeing is an end-time vision of 8 empires that will be on this earth before Jesus comes and establishes his kingdom, his millennial kingdom. And so John was told that 5 have already been, and they were the Egyptian Empire, the Assyrian Empire, the Babylonian Empire, the Persian Empire, and the Grecian Empire. They've already been. He said, now there's one that is. Well, right then, the one that is was the Roman Empire. So John was under the Roman Empire during that time. He was on the island of Patmos, being exiled for his testimony of Jesus Christ. And so right there we see 6. 5 were, 1 is. Now, it says that'll be, what we have to do is establish the 7th, because the 7th is going to be repeated twice. The 7th is going to be come into existence, then it's going to die out, and then it's going to come into existence again, if you remember from the first part of this teaching. So the 7th. Now, from 435 AD, Jerusalem was ruled by an Islamic caliphate. That means Islam had moved back into Jerusalem and taken over as ruler over that area, although Rome hadn't officially been fallen, the Roman Empire hadn't completely fallen. So from that 435 whatever to 1300 and something, there was an Islamic caliphate. Then Muhammad II defeated the Roman Empire, and it officially fell, and the Ottoman Empire was established. And the Ottoman Empire was established until 1924. So actually, from 435 to 1924, you could say that Islam ruled all the Middle East. And then it was, after World War I, it was completely abolished by the United States and Britain. And Islam received a death blow, you might say, at that point. So the 7th empire then is Islam. And I think I said that pretty clearly. So the 8th empire will be the restoration of that 7th empire. Here's the mind that has wisdom. The 7 heads of 7 mountains on which a woman sits. There are also 7 kings. 5 have fallen, 1 is, and the other has yet to come. In this sense, we could say there are also 7 kingdoms. 5 of the kingdoms have fallen, and I said that that was Egypt, Assyria, Persia, and Greece, and I named the 5, and then 1 is, that was Rome, and the 7th is Islamic, the Islamic Empire. 5 have fallen, 1 is, and the other has yet to come. And when he comes, he must continue a short time. The beast that was and is not is himself also the 8th kingdom, is the 8th. And he's of the 7. and he's going to perdition. So it's talking about a beast kingdom. These are beasts. These are beast kingdoms. All 8 kingdoms are beast kingdoms. So this concludes this series of teaching. This teaching today. We might say that Daniel also had a vision of this. We don't want to get confused with the kingdoms and the kings. There will be in this last kingdom, that is the 8th kingdom, which is now being revised right now, there will be 10 kings. There will be 10 Islamic kings in the Mideast that will rise up. Out of that, Daniel and John both saw that 3 of them will be taken over by an 11th king, the little horn, the Antichrist. And the Antichrist is going to subdue 3. And we see this in Revelation 17. We see this in Daniel chapter 7. The Antichrist will subdue 3 kings. And then there'll be 8 kings. He'll be the 8th. And the other 7 kings are going to give him their kingdom. And he will set up over there in the Mideast and be ruling from the Mideast. And that's why I believe that the mark and all these things that are going to come on the world to buy and sell and everything is going to be a local thing. I don't believe the whole world is going to be receive this. I believe it's going to be a Mid-Eastern thing that Islam is going to make all who are under their domain receive a mark to buy or sell. I don't believe it's going to be